Welcome to Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we dive into today's story, we have a humble request. Please consider subscribing to this new channel. Help us hit our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Your support will motivate us to keep bringing you more exclusive, original cheating wife stories. And now, let's get started with today's story. The autumn breeze rustled through the old Maxwell Theater's curtains as Anthony McCormick stood center stage, watching his students rehearse. 20 years of Broadway experience had taught him to spot raw talent, and these kids had it in spades. His decision to leave the glittering lights of New York to transform failing drama programs hadn't been an easy one, but moments like these made it worthwhile. "Marcus, remember what we discussed about Arthur Miller's subtext?" Anthony called out, his voice carrying the same authority that once commanded Broadway crews. Let the weight of Willy Loman's desperation sink into your shoulders. From the back of the theater, Elsa's manicured fingers tapped away at her phone, the blue glow illuminating her bored expression. "I'm sure my ex could give him some pointers," she drawled, loud enough for the students to hear. "He's directing off-Broadway now, you know." Anthony maintained his composure, turning his attention back to the students. He'd grown accustomed to Elsa's constant comparisons to her successful college boyfriends. The school counselor had made it her mission to remind everyone of her connections to the theater world, though her own experience seemed limited to dating men in it. In the front row, Cody Case shifted in his seat, his designer jacket catching the stage lights. The failed Hollywood actor had been hovering around rehearsals since making his generous donation to the school board. Anthony had seen enough social climbers in his Broadway days to recognize Cody's type. All flash, no substance. "Mr. McCormick?" Jessica, one of his troubled teens, approached after rehearsal. "Can we still meet this weekend for the theater workshop?" "Of course," Anthony replied, ignoring Elsa's dramatic eye roll from her counseling desk near the stage. "Saturday morning, same time." "God, Anthony, you're such a martyr." Elsa's voice dripped with disdain as the student left. "Spending your weekends with charity cases when you could be networking. No wonder you're stuck here." Anthony gathered his notes, maintaining the dignity that had earned him his students' respect. Through the corner of his eye, he caught Cody smirking at Elsa's comment. The man had been trying to muscle his way into a leading role since arriving, treating the student actors with barely concealed contempt. "Speaking of networking," Cody announced, dropping names of B-list celebrities he'd supposedly worked with, "this little community theater setup could use some professional influence. I was just telling Chelsea Handler last week." Later that evening, Anthony noticed new posts on the school's counseling social media accounts. Elsa had turned her sessions into photo opportunities, posting carefully filtered images of herself, helping troubled youth find their path, complete with designer outfit tags and sponsored content links. The next day, during dress rehearsal, props began disappearing. Small things at first, a crucial letter for Act 2, then Willie's glasses. Anthony watched Cody's frequent visits to the storage area with growing suspicion. That evening, he made a call to install security cameras. "Really, Anthony?" Elsa cornered him after school, flashing her latest Gucci purchase. "Cameras? This isn't Broadway. Though you'd know all about that, wouldn't you?" Choosing to slum it here instead of making it big, Anthony said nothing, but his mind was already cataloging every interaction, every coincidence that had occurred since Cody's arrival and Elsa's increasing hostility. He'd learned long ago that the best defense was careful observation and meticulous documentation. The security footage told a story that words couldn't capture. Anthony sat in his office after hours, reviewing the tapes from the past week. On screen, Cody slipped into the prop room at odd hours, always when he thought no one was watching. But Anthony had learned long ago that theaters had eyes everywhere, especially when something wasn't right. His notebook filled with precise documentation, dates, times, conversations. 20 years of stage management had taught him the value of detailed records. Today's entry noted another chance meeting between Elsa and Cody in the theater wings, their whispered conversations falling silent whenever students approached. "Mr. McCormick?" A knock at his door revealed Sarah, one of his most promising students. "I overheard something weird in Ms. Elsa's office today." Anthony gestured for her to sit, noting the concern in her eyes. "Go on." She was talking to Mr. Case about Jason's therapy progress. You know, from our grief counseling group. Sarah twisted her hands. She was laughing about it. Said something about his pathetic daddy issues making great content. Anthony's pen moved steadily across the page, recording every detail. He'd noticed Elsa's increasing breach of student confidentiality, especially in her conversations with Cody. Her Instagram stories had become a parade of thinly veiled student stories, each one tagged with hashtag #therapyqueen and hashtag healingthroughtheater. Mitchell Bradley, the newest school board member, began appearing at rehearsals more frequently. Anthony observed his furtive exchanges with Cody, noting how documents passed between them when they thought no one was looking. His community contacts, built over years of dedication to local theater, had warned him about Bradley's reputation for profitable urban development projects. One evening, while locking up, Anthony overheard Elsa's voice from her office. "Of course I'll write you a glowing review, sweetie. Theater therapy is such a joke anyway. Just post about your breakthrough on my professional page." He added the incident to his growing file, alongside records of Elsa using school resources for personal appointments and her increasingly hostile behavior towards students who didn't play into her social media narrative. The pattern became clearer each day. Properties surrounding the Maxwell Theater were being quietly purchased through shell companies. Anthony's real estate contact had traced them all back to one source: Cody Case Productions, LLC. "Your direction is so community theater," Cody remarked during rehearsal, checking his phone for messages. "When I worked with Quentin, Tarantino, we did things differently." Anthony maintained his professional demeanor, but his mind was already connecting the dots. The missing props, the late-night counseling sessions that Elsa claimed never happened despite security footage showing otherwise, the steady stream of leaked board information from Bradley. "You're imagining things," Elsa had snapped when students questioned the disappearing props. "Maybe if you spent less time with Mr. McCormick's little therapy projects and more time on actual theater, you'd keep track of your things better." But Anthony wasn't imagining the student testimonies being manipulated. Jessica had come to him, confused about a statement Elsa had asked her to sign, one that painted the theater program as disorganized and harmful to student welfare. Through his carefully cultivated network of community supporters, Anthony learned of closed-door board meetings where Bradley presented reports about the theater's structural issues and liability concerns. Each report suspiciously aligned with Cody's casual remarks about saving the program through private development. "Remember when I said that prop went missing?" Elsa's voice echoed from the office next door. "They're all so quick to blame each other. One more incident, and we can push for that safety review." Anthony added the conversation to his files, alongside photographs of Cody checking out the theater's foundation late at night. The pieces formed a clear picture. They planned to blame the theater's eventual closure on his leadership, paving the way for Cody's development plans. What they hadn't counted on was Anthony's methodical nature. Every conversation recorded, every suspicious incident photographed, every piece of evidence carefully cataloged and backed up in multiple locations. He hadn't survived 2 decades on Broadway without learning how to spot a conspiracy in the making. Opening night of Death of a Salesman brought a full house to Maxwell Theater. Anthony stood in the wings, watching his students transform into Arthur Miller's complex characters. The months of dedication showed in every movement, every carefully crafted pause. Even the local critics, known for their harsh treatment of high school productions, leaned forward in their seats. Marcus, one of Anthony's troubled students from the weekend theater program, delivered Biff's confrontation scene with raw intensity. The audience held their breath, witnessing the culmination of months of therapy through theater. In the front row, tears glistened in parents' eyes as they watched their children shine. Cody, cast as Uncle Ben despite his demands for Willie Loman's role, deliberately missed his 3rd entrance cue. Anthony seamlessly directed the stage manager to adjust the lighting, masking the attempted sabotage. The audience remained captivated, unaware of the backstage drama. From her seat beside Cody's theater friends, Elsa's derisive laughter carried during the quiet moments. She positioned herself strategically among a group of Cody's supposed industry connections. Their running commentary, just loud enough to reach the stage. "God, this is so amateur," she stage whispered during a crucial scene. "Remember that brilliant experimental version at Yale, darling?" During intermission, Anthony's phone buzzed with notifications. Cody had tagged him in a series of Facebook posts, private messages between Cody and Elsa discussing their plans, accidentally made public by Cody's social media ineptitude. The messages scrolled across countless screens in the audience. "These pathetic students actually think theater saves lives," faced with tears of joy. Elsa's message read. "Wait till they see what real development looks like," Cody's reply. Anthony watched the ripple effect as audience members discovered the posts. Parents' expressions shifted from confusion to anger as they read Elsa's mockery of their children's personal struggles. The theater community members, many of whom had supported the program for years, scrolled through messages detailing plans to demolish their beloved landmark. Yet on stage, the show continued flawlessly. Anthony had prepared his students for anything, and they performed with professional precision. During the next scene change, he made a series of quick, quiet phone calls he'd prepared for, but hoped he'd never need to make. "Your documentation has been received," the ethics board representative confirmed. "We'll be there for the final act." In the audience, students who weren't performing began sharing screenshots of the exposed messages. The evidence Anthony had meticulously gathered over months was finally seeing the light, perfectly timed with Cody's social media blunder. The second act began with Willie Loman's descent into his memories. As the character's past caught up with him on stage, Elsa and Cody's past actions were catching up with him in the real world. Their faces, illuminated by phone screens showing more and more exposed messages, grew increasingly pale. Anthony maintained his post in the wings, directing cues with unwavering professionalism. His students, sensing the tension but trained well, delivered their strongest performance yet. The standing ovation that followed wasn't just for Miller's timeless play. It was a statement of support from a community that had seen behind the curtain of deception. As the audience rose to their feet, Anthony's phone buzzed one final time. Everything was in place for what would come next. He learned in his Broadway days that timing was everything, both on stage and off. The curtain call marked more than the end of a performance. It marked the beginning of consequences. The applause continued as Anthony stepped forward to acknowledge his cast, his quiet dignity a stark contrast to Elsa and Cody's obvious discomfort. In the theater world, the show must go on, and Anthony McCormick had directed this particular show to perfection. The morning after death of a salesman, Anthony arrived at the theater before dawn. Years of stage management had taught him the value of striking first. He watched the locksmith change every lock in the building, the metallic sounds echoing through the empty halls. "All security codes have been reset," Mr. McCormick, the technician reported, handing over a single master key. "Only you and the principal have access now." Anthony nodded, plugging a USB drive into his laptop. The surveillance footage told a damning story. Elsa's late-night meetings with Cody, confidential student files spread across her desk as she photographed them with her phone, props disappearing into Cody's designer bag. His phone buzzed. The school board had agreed to an emergency meeting. The timing was perfect. The evidence was overwhelming, organized chronologically in a way only a former stage manager could achieve. Across town, Elsa returned home to find her parents waiting in her living room. Her mother's face was ash-white, clutching printouts of social media posts where Elsa had mocked students for content. "What have you done?" Her father's voice cut through her practiced excuses. Elsa lunged for her laptop, desperate to delete evidence, but found herself locked out of every account. Anthony's documentation was thorough. Screenshots, recordings, timestamped security footage. Her attempts to access her office computers proved futile. The systems had been locked down overnight. "The school board will see you tomorrow morning," her father stated, his tone brooking no argument. "They're suspending you pending investigation." Parents flooded the school's phone lines, demanding access to their children's counseling records. The theater board, faced with irrefutable evidence of Cody's demolition plans, froze all development proposals. "My daughter trusted you," one mother confronted Elsa in the parking lot. "You posted about her eating disorder for likes?" Students began sharing stories. Jessica revealed how Elsa had pressured her to lie about Anthony's program. Marcus described late-night meetings where Elsa had promised social media fame in exchange for false testimonies. Local news vans appeared outside the school. Anthony watched from his office as reporters cornered Elsa, their cameras capturing her desperate attempts to maintain composure as her carefully crafted image crumbled. "This is a coordinated attack," she shrieked, mascara running. "Anthony McCormick is trying to destroy me." But the evidence spoke louder than her accusations. Security footage showed her removing student files after hours. Social media timestamps proved she'd been sharing confidential information with Cody. Her office computer history revealed unauthorized access to school resources for personal appointments. The school board's decision was unanimous: immediate suspension. Elsa watched, speechless, as security escorted her from the building. Her designer heels echoed through the halls one last time. In the theater, Anthony continued rehearsals for the spring production. His students performed with renewed energy, free from the weight of manipulation and mockery. "You planned this," Cody accused, cornering Anthony after rehearsal. "You've been planning this for months?" Anthony met his gaze steadily. "I learned something on Broadway. Always keep the receipts." The ethics board meeting room fell silent as Anthony's evidence filled the projection screen. Frame by frame, security footage showed Elsa accessing confidential files, photographing student records, and sharing them with Cody during their late-night counseling sessions. These timestamps match the social media posts, the board chairman noted, scrolling through screenshots where Elsa had thinly veiled students' personal struggles for content. And the location data confirms these were uploaded from school property during scheduled therapy hours. The school's internal audit revealed a pattern of misused resources. Elsa had used the counseling office for personal photo shoots, charged designer clothes to the department credit card, and billed private appointments to the school's insurance. Parents lined up to file formal complaints. Mrs. Rodriguez, trembling with anger, presented printed Instagram stories where Elsa had mockingly detailed her son's grief counseling sessions. Mr. Chen showed emails where Elsa had threatened to expose his daughter's anxiety issues unless she promoted Elsa's therapy influencer brand. "My daughter tried to hurt herself after those posts," Mrs. Thompson testified, her voice steady with controlled rage. Ms. Elsa turned her trauma into entertainment. Meanwhile, Cody's carefully constructed empire began to crumble. Building inspectors, alerted by Anthony's documentation, discovered fraudulent permits for the proposed theater development. Each application bore Mitchell Bradley's signature, dated months before the official board votes. "This is harassment," Cody shouted at reporters outside his office. "I worked with Nicolas Cage. Ask him about me." Mr. Cage's representatives have no record of ever working with Mr. Case, a journalist replied, reading from her phone. And according to SAG records, his only credited role was as man in elevator in a 2009 direct-to-DVD film. Cody's wife appeared at the theater one morning, designer sunglasses hiding red eyes. She carried a stack of papers, hotel receipts, text messages, photos of Cody with not just Elsa, but 3 other women from various community theater productions. He said he was mentoring young actresses, she told Anthony, her laugh bitter. "I found his real estate contracts. He's done this before, infiltrated small theaters, corrupted board members, destroyed programs for profit." The development plans faced mounting legal scrutiny. Previous victims from other cities came forward, describing identical schemes. A theater in Oregon, another in Wisconsin. Cody's pattern emerged with devastating clarity. Community support for Anthony swelled. Students organized a Save the Maxwell campaign that went viral, drowning out Elsa's carefully curated hashtags. Local businesses, many owned by former drama students, pledged funding for theater renovation. "Mr. McCormick gave me a voice when everyone else silenced me," Marcus testified at a community meeting. "He builds people up. They try to tear us down for profit." Alumni flooded social media with success stories. Broadway actors, doctors, lawyers, all crediting Anthony's program with teaching them confidence, discipline, and integrity. The contrast with Elsa's manipulative posts and Cody's fake Hollywood tales couldn't have been starker. Parents organized support groups, sharing resources to help students affected by Elsa's breaches of confidence. The local arts community rallied around Anthony, offering partnerships and mentorship programs. "We always knew something was wrong," a veteran theater board member admitted. But Anthony did more than suspect. He proved it. Methodically, irrefutably, Cody's investors, alerted by the mounting scandals, began their own investigations. Each day revealed new fraud. Shell companies, forged signatures, misappropriated funds. His acting reputation, built on exaggerated credits and paid IMDb reviews, collapsed under scrutiny. "I have statements from 3 other counselors," the ethics board chairman announced, all confirming Mr. McCormick's documentation of Ms. Elsa's professional misconduct. Desperation had a distinct scent. It lingered in Elsa's expensive perfume as she stormed into the superintendent's office, clutching a hastily prepared harassment complaint. "Anthony McCormick created a hostile work environment," she declared, her designer heels clicking against the floor. "He stalked me, recorded me without consent, turned students against me." The superintendent wordlessly slid forward a stack of consent forms. Every student and parent had signed camera installation notices. Every recording bore timestamps matching scheduled school hours. Every interaction documented had occurred in public spaces. Across town, Cody's legal threats echoed through his lawyer's office. "I'll sue them all. I'll own that theater." His voice cracked with panic. "Give me injunctions, restraining orders, whatever it takes." The lawyer, reviewing Anthony's evidence files, shook his head. "Mr. Case, they have audio recordings of you discussing property fraud with Mitchell Bradley. Your signature is on documents dated before the board's vote. You were recorded attempting to bribe the building inspector." Elsa and Cody's desperate alliance culminated in a late-night meeting at a local diner. Security cameras, Anthony's professional paranoia had served him well, captured their frantic planning. "We'll destroy the records," Elsa hissed, makeup smeared from stress. "I still have access to some student files. We can make it look like he fabricated everything." But Anthony's documentation existed in multiple secure locations. Every attempt to access school computers triggered silent alarms. Each deleted file restored automatically from encrypted backups. Their next move proved even more desperate. Cody approached drama students after rehearsal, offering cash for false statements against Anthony. "Think about your future in Hollywood," he promised, name-dropping celebrities who'd never heard of him. "I can make things happen." The students, recording every interaction on their phones, brought the evidence directly to Anthony. He added it to his growing files without comment, his silence more devastating than any reaction. Elsa tried planting stories in local media, using her social media influence to spread rumors about Anthony's Broadway career. "Sources say he was fired for inappropriate behavior," she posted, tagging news outlets. Within hours, Anthony's former Broadway colleagues flooded the comments with evidence of his exemplary career. Stage managers, directors, and actors shared stories of his integrity and professionalism. Each attempt to smear his reputation backfired spectacularly. "Ms. Elsa offered me money to lie," Jessica testified to the school board, her voice steady. "She said if I didn't help destroy Mr. McCormick's reputation, she'd release my private therapy sessions online." Anthony's response was methodical. He released audio recordings of their threats, each one time-stamped and authenticated. Financial records showed the pattern of student manipulation, complete with attempted bribes and coercion. Every accusation they make, Anthony explained to the ethics board, was preemptively documented and disproven. He presented a timeline of their desperate measures, matched with evidence of their falsehood. The local media, initially eager for scandal, found themselves reporting a different story. Each investigation revealed Anthony's ethical leadership, contrasted against Elsa and Cody's increasingly erratic behavior. "They're trying to save their reputations," a board member observed, watching Elsa's social media meltdown. "But they're only burying themselves deeper." Through it all, Anthony maintained his professional demeanor. He continued teaching, directing, and mentoring, his calm presence a stark contrast to his accuser's chaos. "You'll regret this," Cody threatened during his final theater board appearance. "I have connections." Anthony simply pressed play on another recording, letting Cody's own words reveal his lies. The failed actor stormed out, leaving behind a trail of empty threats and broken schemes. Elsa's final attempt at retaliation, a tearful social media video claiming victimization, met with overwhelming evidence of her misconduct. Her influencer empire, built on exploited student stories, crumbled with each new revelation. The state licensing board meeting room buzzed with tension as Elsa's professional fate hung in the balance. Her counseling license, displayed so prominently on her social media, lay on the table before the board members. The evidence is conclusive, the board chairman announced. Multiple violations of client confidentiality, exploitation of minors for personal gain, falsification of therapy records. Elsa's designer outfit couldn't mask her trembling as the verdict was delivered. Her counseling license was revoked, effective immediately. Her attempts to interject with tales of her innovative social media therapy fell on deaf ears. Across town, federal investigators swarmed Cody Case Productions offices. The fraudulent permits were just the beginning. Each open drawer revealed new evidence of financial misconduct, forged signatures, and manipulated property records. Mr. Case's company operated as a front for real estate fraud, the lead investigator announced to the press. Multiple theaters across 3 states were targeted using the same method. Mitchell Bradley faced the State Bar Association, his legal career ending with a swift vote for disbarment. The evidence was damning. Leaked confidential board information, backdated permits, conspiracy to defraud a public institution. Your actions weren't just unethical, the bar president declared. They were a calculated attempt to destroy a vital community resource for personal gain. Anthony watched from his office as workers installed the historic landmark plaque outside Maxwell Theater. The building's protected status, fast-tracked by community advocates, ensured it would serve future generations. The State Arts Council has reviewed your program's impact, the Education Board representative announced, presenting Anthony with official documentation. We're implementing your theater therapy model statewide. The funding package exceeded anything Cody's fake development plans had promised. Real money, legitimate grants, earmarked for program expansion and facility upgrades. Mr. McCormick's methods produce measurable improvements in student outcomes, the Council's report stated. His combination of artistic excellence and therapeutic support represents a new standard in arts education. Students gathered in the auditorium as news crews filmed the historic designation ceremony. Where Elsa had once mocked their struggles for social media content, they now stood proud, their stories of recovery and growth featured in legitimate educational journals. Anthony accepted the state's recognition with characteristic grace, but his eyes were on his students. Their triumph meant more than any professional victory. The state funding ensures every troubled teen has access to theater therapy, he told reporters. That's what matters. The justice served wasn't just professional. It was a vindication of every student who trusted the program, every parent who believed in the healing power of theater, every community member who'd stood against corruption. The law firm's conference room held an army of parents, each clutching documentation of Elsa's betrayals. The class action lawsuit detailed every violation, every exploitation, every moment their children's trust had been marketed for likes and shares. We've documented 317 instances of confidentiality breaches, the lead attorney stated. Each post, each shared secret, each monetized trauma carries its own damages. Elsa's carefully curated professional reputation shattered with each new testimony. Her social media empire, built on exploited student stories, imploded as platforms banned her accounts for ethics violations. Influencer therapist exposed. How Elsa Turner monetized student trauma, the headlines read. National media picked up the story, her fall from grace documented by the very outlets she'd once courted. Her family's response was swift and absolute. The designer clothes, bought with their money, were repossessed. Her access to family accounts terminated. The Turner name, which she'd leveraged for credibility, was stripped from her social media profiles. You didn't just embarrass yourself, her father's letter stated. You betrayed every principle of mental health care for Instagram followers. Unable to face the community's judgment, Elsa fled to a distant state. Her LinkedIn profile, once boasting of therapeutic innovations, now listed retail positions at discount stores. The mighty hashtag Therapy Queen reduced to folding sweaters and avoiding eye contact with customers who might recognize her from the national scandal. Meanwhile, Cody's empire faced its own reckoning. The bankruptcy declaration revealed the extent of his fraud. Millions in misappropriated investor funds, shell companies hiding failed developments, properties acquired through forged documents. My husband presented himself as a Hollywood success story, his wife's divorce filing stated. In reality, he was a con artist who preyed on community theaters and vulnerable women. The divorce proceedings exposed every affair, every lie, every manipulated relationship. His wife's attorneys had been thorough, documenting each instance where he'd used community theater productions to groom potential victims. Legal complaints piled up from investors across the country. Each lawsuit revealed the same pattern. Infiltrate local theaters, seduce influential women, manipulate property deals, destroy community programs for profit. Mr. Case's only acting success was pretending to be a legitimate businessman, the prosecutor announced. His real talent was fraud. His claimed Hollywood connections evaporated under scrutiny. Celebrities he'd name-dropped issued statements denying any association. His IMDb page, once padded with fictional credits, shrunk to a single uncredited appearance. The divorce settlement stripped him of every asset. His wife's legal team had found offshore accounts, hidden properties, years of financial deception. She claimed it all, leaving him with nothing but his fake Hollywood stories. "I built everything on lies," Cody admitted in a sealed deposition. The acting career, the development company, the relationships, all fabricated. Investors filed criminal complaints, revealing how he'd used the theater scheme in multiple cities. Each failed development had left destroyed arts programs and broken communities in its wake. Pattern of predatory behavior, the investigators' report stated. Mr. Case specifically targeted educational theaters with vulnerable student populations. Former victims emerged from across the country, sharing identical stories. Young actresses he'd manipulated, theater boards he'd corrupted, communities he'd tried to destroy for profit. Each testimony strengthened the criminal case against him. His last attempt at maintaining his image, a tearful interview claiming persecution, backfired spectacularly. Anthony's documentation proved every claim false, every victim's story true, every accusation supported by evidence. The Maxwell Theater gleamed under new stage lights, its historic architecture enhanced by modern renovations. The board meeting unanimously approved the expansion project, transforming the space Anthony had protected into a beacon of arts education. Phase 1 renovation begins next week, the project manager announced, spreading blueprints across the table. State-of-the-art lighting systems, upgraded acoustics, and expanded classroom spaces. The youth program that Elsa and Cody had tried to destroy now served as a model for schools nationwide. Applications flooded in from troubled teens across the state, drawn by the program's documented success rates. "We've secured funding for 3 new teaching positions," the superintendent informed Anthony. "Your therapeutic theater model has attracted attention from the National Education Board." Community classes filled every available time slot. Where Cody had once sneered at amateur theater, local artists now taught masterclasses. Broadway veterans, impressed by Anthony's vision, offered workshops during off-season breaks. The waiting list for summer programs exceeds 200 students, the administrative assistant reported. "We've had to add weekend sessions to meet demand." Professional partnerships transformed the theater's reach. Local mental health providers referred patients to the program. Universities requested internship placements. Theater companies across the country sought consultation on implementing Anthony's methods. The Maxwell model combines artistic excellence with therapeutic support, the Educational Journal noted. Students show marked improvement in academic performance, emotional regulation, and social integration. The renovation project revealed the theater's hidden potential. Behind walls Cody had marked for demolition, workers discovered original architectural features. Each restored detail added to the building's historic value. The Maxwell Theater represents a perfect fusion of preservation and progress, the State Arts Council declared. A historic landmark serving modern educational needs. State grants funded new initiatives. Anthony's weekend mentoring program expanded into a comprehensive youth support system. Professional development workshops helped other teachers implement his methods. "We're not just saving theaters," Anthony told the board. "We're building safe spaces for growth and healing." Local businesses, remembering Cody's attempted destruction, contributed to the theater's renaissance. Restaurant owners provided meals for after-school programs. Hotels offered accommodation for visiting artists. Law firms provided pro bono services to protect the theater's interests. "The Maxwell Theater anchors our community's cultural future," the mayor announced at the renovation ceremony. "Thanks to Anthony McCormick's vision, it will serve generations to come." Epilogue. 1 year later, the Maxwell Theater's grand foyer buzzed with excitement before another sold-out performance. Anthony McCormick stood in his customary spot in the wings, watching his legacy unfold on multiple fronts. Marcus, once a troubled teen mocked in Elsa's social media posts, now led the youth mentoring program. His success story had been featured in educational journals, showcasing how theater therapy could transform lives. "Mr. McCormick showed me that pain can become performance," he told his students. "Now I get to pass that lesson on." Jessica, another former victim of Elsa's exploitation, had earned a scholarship to study drama therapy. Her thesis examined the Maxwell model, comparing it to traditional therapeutic approaches. The same struggles Elsa had once monetized for likes now formed the foundation of legitimate research. Meanwhile, Elsa Turner's fall from grace continued its downward spiral. Security cameras at the discount store where she worked captured her flinching whenever customers recognized her from the national scandal. Her name, once hashtagged with #TherapyQueen, now appeared in ethics textbooks under professional misconduct case studies. The class action settlement had stripped her of every asset. She lived in a studio apartment in Idaho, far from the designer lifestyle she'd flaunted. Monthly garnished wages went directly to her victims, ensuring years of financial penance. Her attempt to rebuild her social media presence backfired spectacularly. Each new account was immediately flooded with evidence of her past exploitation. The platforms themselves banned her under their mental health misinformation policies. Former influencer therapist barred from mental health work nationwide, the headlines had read. State boards across the country added her name to their blacklists, ensuring she could never counsel again. Her parents, maintaining their strict dissociation, had even legally changed their family foundation's name to distance themselves from her disgrace. Cody Case's reality proved even grimmer. County jail jumpsuits replaced his designer clothes as he awaited trial for multiple fraud charges. His Hollywood stories, once delivered with practice charm, fell flat in prison yard conversations. His wife's divorce settlement had been ruthless in its thoroughness. Every hidden account exposed, every secret property seized, every fraudulent deal reversed. The restitution payments would follow him long after his eventual release. Former industry connections denied ever knowing him. His IMDb page disappeared entirely after a fact-checking investigation. Reporters discovered his claimed Hollywood credits were all fabricated, down to the Photoshop studio badges he'd used to impress victims. Mitchell Bradley, disbarred and facing his own legal consequences, had turned state's evidence. His testimony revealed the full scope of Cody's theater schemes across the country. Each exposed plot brought new victims forward, ensuring the investigation would continue for years. But in the Maxwell Theater, their machinations were already fading into cautionary legend. The renovated building hummed with positive energy. State-of-the-art facilities hosted both student productions and professional workshops. The therapy program, once mocked by Elsa as amateur hour, had a 2-year waiting list. Anthony's quiet strength had transformed more than just troubled teens. Local business owners who'd stood against Cody's development scheme now served on the theater's advisory board. Their children enrolled in programs, creating a new generation of art supporters. The school board, chastened by their near failure to protect the program, established the McCormick Grant for Arts Education. Each year, it funded new initiatives combining performance with healing. The same room where Elsa had once staged fake counseling sessions for social media now hosted legitimate therapy workshops. Mrs. Rodriguez, whose son's confidential sessions Elsa had exploited, headed the parent advocacy group. "We're not just teaching theater," she told visitors. "We're teaching trust, integrity, and resilience." As Anthony watched his current students perform, he saw the real victory. Not in his opponent's downfall, though justice had been thorough in its retribution. The triumph lived in each young voice finding strength through performance, each broken spirit healing through art. The Maxwell Theater stood as testament to substance over spectacle, integrity over influence, genuine care over profitable manipulation. In the end, Anthony's methodical dedication had done more than preserve a building or a program. He'd protected a sacred space where transformation remained possible, where troubled teens could still find their voice on stage, and where truth, however quietly spoken, proved more powerful than malice. The applause that filled the renovated halls celebrated more than just good theater. It honored the victory of authentic purpose over shallow ambition, of patient documentation over hasty schemes, of quiet strength over loud deception. And in the wings, Anthony McCormick continued his work, knowing that the best performances weren't those that earned the most attention, but those that touched the most lives.